So this is a video about high intensity training and basically getting started in the beginning of it, or an introduction to it. Um, this is when I first got into high intensity training. This is probably when I first got into weight training, and I think it's more important, especially than cardio. Not that you can enjoy hobbies or activities, but I think there's a big overemphasis, especially in conditioning. And I'll get into that some on cardio. And I think really it depends on your muscles, and you want to. But the main tenets or philosophy behind high intensity training is keep it safe, keep it short and brief, but intense. And there's a lot of things out there that are similar, like there's intermittent high intensity training, and there's CrossFit, which are similar. And while they may get part of it right, I don't believe it's like high intensity training, and it really exercises your muscles efficiently and effectively. There may be some other exercises that maybe are effective, but they aren't really efficient, especially when you look at your whole body and diet and stress and stuff. And while it is good to maybe do a little bit of cardio, I wouldn't do pure cardio, like do cardio for the sake of cardio, or chronic cardio, because I think doing too much can actually worsen things, and I would actually have people rather do maybe once or twice a high intensity workout, and then maybe do like a hobby or activity that could deem cardio, such as like mixed martial arts or dancing or breakdancing. These are all examples that I do. Martial arts, maybe archery. But I don't think you necessarily have to do cardio to get fit. I think it helps, but to a smaller extent. But anyways, the emphasis is also on not doing as many exercises, but doing compound exercises that work the exercise that work the big major muscle groups. I usually there's only 10 exercises that I do that I've done in the past, but in a typical workout I only do 6 of those, and those are 5 that work the big 5 that work the major muscle groups, and then 1 isolation exercise. Because people, depending on a number of different factors, grow their muscles differently, and they get stressed or adapted differently. So someone's biceps might grow or get more grow more faster than others, and so you want to do these compound exercises, but also mix in an isolation exercise. And some other important parts is that some of these didn't even come later, but you want to record all your workouts, and you'll compare them to see if you're doing better, doing worse, and occasionally, especially if you haven't increased it, increase your weight. You want the weight to be near the maximum, about 80-ish% of your maximum, and you also you don't necessarily have to go through a full range of motion, mainly because you build strength not from doing a full range of motion, but by exerting yourself through the rep, and you don't really want to flex or push your joints too far, so you don't want to extend too far forward or too far back or near the ends of the repetition. And if possible, use Nautilus machines, and if you can get hold of one or can buy one, an ArxFit Omni, because those are adapt to the individual. And while Nautilus, they are a lot better than just using pure weights. They're adapted or more for the average size person. So if you're a larger type person, or even a smaller person, it might not be the same for you. And the reasons, it's a little complex, but due to physics and other things, that resistance, if you do, say, a bench press with a barbell, the resistance changes throughout depending on gravity. But if you do, say, a seated row or chest press on a Nautilus machine, the resistance stays throughout because it's basically the cam that rotates during the exercise is like a spring and it builds tension, and so the tension is throughout. And the ArxFit Omni is similar to that concept, but it applies the most tension you can push through the whole repetition. So it's really a lot more efficient and effective. And also, you want to recovery is really important. You want to sleep as much as possible. I'd recommend at least like 9 or 10 hours every day. Eat well, try and keep stress low, try and keep a pretty clean diet. It doesn't have to be perfect. And yeah, I know that people's muscles typically only get so big or small. I mean, depending on, it's a lot of has to do with genetics, and so if you come from a family of bodybuilders, or if you come from a family of bodybuilders, then it's likely that when you lift weights you'll have a bodybuilder. But if they're lean, then you'll more gain lean muscle. But if you're like me, you probably gain and lose muscle and also fat very well. The other thing is a lot of women out there think that they'll get too bulky or they'll put on too much muscle, and generally speaking, unless it's very rare that women can actually put on quite a few pounds of muscle, and those few are usually bodybuilders. So it's very rare that you'll actually get pretty muscular. You'll more than likely get toned or muscular. I mean, if you look at most like MMA fighters, most of them, they're buff, but they're not like super buff. They're not like freakishly buff. So that's basically it. You also want to exercise congruently, and you also want to, I mean, there's a lot of great books out there. There's Body by Science, there's books by Mike Mentzer, there's books by John Little, several by John Little. He's written a lot of books, even on other stuff, including martial arts. Bill D. Simone, he has a YouTube channel, and he also has a lot of videos on exercising congruently. I use more of those for the isolation exercises because there are certain ways, a lot of ways that they do isolation exercises that actually don't work the muscles really all that well or efficiently. And if you do it wrong, then it not only it's wasting your time and effort, but it can also hurt your body, your joints, and it can deteriorate your body. And this is a good form of, I think, conditioning for any sport. And I want to touch on that some other time, but I think sports conditioning and conditioning is they way overcomplicate it, and there's some ways that it can really be simplified, and so you can focus less time on conditioning, and you can focus more on your sport or your techniques and so forth. But Body by Science, there's 2 books. There's Body by Science and Body by Science Q&A. There's also several books by Mike Mentzer. There's also several books by John Little and Bill D. Simone's books. But I would start out with the Body by Science books and also Bill D. Simone's. I haven't even finished all those, but they're really good books, especially if you're interested in more of the science, and especially philosophy, and want a more, I guess, scientific way of weightlifting. And also the 21 convention, that's where I learned a lot of this stuff from, so check out that website as well. But I'll include a link to my Squidoo lens, and it's a pretty good article as it is. And also the other thing is when you, while I do the same exercises in my workouts, I change the order of them so that different muscle groups get worked at different parts of the workout, because generally your first exercise will be your strongest, and then your last one that you do will be your weakest because your muscles are already fatigued. Anyways, that's it about high intensity training. If you want to know more, just comment below, or if you've had any experiences, or how often you need to work out, and stuff like that. And generally I do maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks, especially with my health conditions. Um, I like to take a lot of time off, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because recovery is, I think, probably one of the most important parts about especially high intensity training. But that's it.